Lady, go!
Welcome back. Today we'll be talking about the last member of the America's First Team, Heavy D. Heavy D has always been seen as the coolest member of the team, mostly because he doesn't have any other gimmick. He's only a straightforward boxer. Being a boxer comes with the advantage that all of his buttons are punches, even his kicks. And being a boxer, he also has one of the fastest buttons in the game, not to mention long reach punches. Now, boxers in fighting games usually come with two variations. You're either a Balrog or a Vanessa. This essentially means that you either overwhelm your opponent with approaching moves and good buttons, much like Balrog, or you try to mix up your opponent with tricky mobility to open them up so you can start to go ham, just like Vanessa. Where does Heavy D land in the spectrum? Well, in 94, I'll say he was a really bad Balrog. That is because his approaching move was simply too slow. And his other moves in 94 did not really help his playstyle that much. We'll be talking about that later. First, his main move is RSD. As you can see, it is an approaching move that does multiple hits if you do the heavy version, and only one if you do light. Its mediocre speed still remains in 98. You still mainly use this move as a quick knockdown. And now let's talk about the rest of his 94 moves. First, his Blast Upper. You're supposed to use this to counteract projectiles. As you can see, his main problem is because he doesn't have very good range. Dodge in 98, you can see that it gains a buff that makes it so it is your main combo ender. And lastly, for his 94 moves, is Soul Flower. A very interesting anti-air. It makes up for slow speed by making so you are completely invisible during startup. And if you wish, you can catch your opponent off guard because the moves are low for some reason. Now that we've seen all of his 94 tools, you can see the Heavy D doesn't really work that well. You can't really approach the RSD so you can close enough to the Blast Upper, and Soul Flower is a bit too gimmicky. Does the new moves that Heavy D gained in 94 fix this problem? Well, kind of. First, I'd like to talk about the boxing spectrum again. In his 94, thanks to his new moves, I would say that Heavy D actually lands somewhere in the middle. The first new move that Heavy D gained is something that he desperately needed, a way to stop opponents from blocking. His Dancing D is a command grab. I told you that every member of the America's First Team has a command grab of some kind. The interesting part about this command grabber is that it actually breaks your opponent's guard. Since it is a more traditional hit instead of straight up being a command grab, that means it can hit opponents who are crouch blocking. And now for the move that makes it so he stands in the middle of the spectrum, his ducking combination. It's a mobility tool that you can use to get in on your opponents. But not only that, it has two enders. A low and the overhead. If you're paying attention, you'll see that the overhead does not combo on its own. The main problem with Heavy D is that most of his moves listen too open for too long. Well, that's where his main move and his special sauce come in. By pressing down punch, you'll do D Shadow, a special punch that upgrades every single one of Heavy D's moves. For example, remember RSD and how it didn't combo? Well, now it does. And thanks to being two punches, you can use this to approach your opponent and to keep him locked down while they're blocking. Not to mention now that you can combo into it. It is now your main combo enter and does a lot more damage than Blast Upper. Speaking of which, this is what his upgrade Blast Upper looks like. It may not seem like much, but since we've been active for much longer, not only does it destroy projectiles a lot better, you can also use it as a very active anti-air. But what about his old anti-air Soul Flower? Well, not much has changed, it just does more damage. Heavy D's Dancing Beat got a major upgrade, as it can now launch the opponent. Now Heavy D can use his other moves to pressure his opponent into grabbing, and after doing his upgrade dancing combination, really put the hurt in. But what about his ducking combination? Well, Lexi has 3 different variations now. After you do D Shadow and do ducking combination raw, he will do another mid. This mitigates the main problem with the overhead version of the move. If the opponent tries to challenge you while you're doing the overhead, they might catch a mid. The level up version of ducking combination low now integrates Blast Upper into it. Not only does it do a lot of damage, it also launches the opponent very far away. As for the overhead level up, it still doesn't combo on its own. But remember that you have a mid. Not to mention that it does a lot more damage thanks to the final hit being RSD. Now let's talk about his supers. First, the super that stands for 94 is D Crazy. A very interesting thing about his move in 94 is that it seems that the scaling is a bit messed up. This essentially means if the entire move connects in 94, it will do like 95% of the opponent's health. I particularly like the level 2 version of the super, mostly because it seems like it can go on forever. He really just smacks the living shit out of you. And now for his new super in 98, his Deep Magnum. Stop laughing. Projectile super that you can charge. Charging only seems to delay the move and do a little bit more damage. It's not very useful to charge. The main reason to do this is the opponent is really good at running away and trying to zone you, as this is Heavy D's best range option. It can really hurt your opponents if you You can really hurt your opponent if you do this as a counter hit, as you can see. If you thought D-Shadow was crazy and opened up Heavy D's possibilities, I haven't seen nothing yet. That's where his third super and most interesting super, not only in KOF 98, but maybe in the entire series comes in. He has a super version of D-Shadow, an install super. For 10 seconds, all of your moves are upgraded. But that's not even the insane part. What do you think that the level 2 version of this super does? Go ahead, I'll give you a minute to think about. If you thought that it simply increases the time, you are mistaken. If you think that it increases the move even more, you are also mistaken. What it actually does is this. You now have the buff for the entirety of the match. Which for me is insane. Much like Brian Ballard, it is insanely satisfying to make Heavy D the last character on your team, so he has a turn meter, so you can do this in the beginning of the match and play as a power-up Heavy D for the rest of the round. Meaning now you can really use your ducking combinations as a mix-up, approach your opponent quickly with RDS. If you think they are safe and can predict your ducking combinations mix-ups, you have a command grab. Another cute thing that I forgot to talk about is that D-Shadow itself also levels up. It goes from a special taunt to an actual move. Meaning you can incorporate this into your combos if you feel like. It is very fun to field the screen with tricky projectiles as Lucky. It is also fun to both armor through the opponent's moves and watch them panic jump so you can catch it with a Medical Supernova as Ryan Ballard. Not to mention Heavy D plays science or getting a quick knockdown so that he can block himself. It's also essential. Not to mention his super that gives him a power-up version of him for the entirety of the round. So yes, I do believe that they should come back. What do you guys think? Not to mention, don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to ask for any other character that you want me to make a video about. See you next time.